Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at The Seventh Continent. This is a 1 to 4 player cooperative adventure storytelling game where you take the role of a group of renowned explorers in the year 1907. You have just returned home from exploring the Seventh Continent only to find that a curse or curses are consuming you. You must go back to the Seventh Continent, explore, and lift the curse or die trying. If you and your team lift the curse or curses, then you win the game. Now that we know what the winning condition is, let's take a look at the components setup and how gameplay works in the Seventh Continent. Now let's take a look at your components. Starting with your cards, you have your adventure cards, which are your green and gold backed cards with a number. Next, your exploration cards, which are your fog-backed cards and a Roman numeral in the top left corner. Next are your save cards, your clue cards, your curse cards, your character cards, your action cards, which are your blue-backed cards, and then finally your satchel and journal card. Next is your discard card holder. And then we have our explorer miniatures and standees. Your fire figures and standees, your stands, dice, your player aids, magnifying glass, your card trays and dividers, and then finally your rule book. Now let's take a look at the setup. We're going to be setting this up for a 2-player game, which takes 11 steps. Step 1, each player is going to choose a character, take their character card, their character figure, and a fire figure. Step 2, give each player a player aid, and then take and place the satchel and journal card in front of one player. There's an optional step at this time. You can take card 777 to make the game easier, or card 650 to make the game harder. Step 3, each player takes die based on the player count. In a solo game, you will take 4 dice. In a 2-player game, each character will take 3 dice each. And then in a 3 or 4-player game, you'll take 2 dice each. Step 4, choose the curse or curses and place the corresponding clue cards under the satchel. The more curses you have in play, the harder the game. It is recommended if you are playing your first game to use the Voracious Goddess. Step 5, you will create and shuffle the action deck. You'll take the 35 common skill cards, 5 character-specific cards for each character, your curse or curses cards based on what you chose in Step 4, and then 4 Death is Lurking cards. Step 6, you will assemble and place your action discard holder. Step 7, you will sort and shuffle your exploration cards by area. These are your fog-backed cards with Roman numerals in the top left corner. Step 8, sort your adventure cards in ascending order. It's important to note that green cards will always be placed before any gold cards of the same number. Step 9, read and place your starting terrain card. You are going to take the adventure card indicated on the back of the clue card for the curse you have chosen. This number is located at the bottom on the back of that clue card. If you've chosen multiple curses, then you would take the lowest number. You will read the card and place it in the center, with each player figure on top of the card. Step 10, you will check and place exploration cards. You will check the starting terrain tile for any exploration card locations. These are your orange or yellow circles with a Roman numeral inside. Then you will place the cards with the same Roman numeral number and orient the cards the same way as your terrain tile. And then finally, step 11. Read the introduction in the rulebook and the clue card and then begin play. Now let's take a look at the gameplay. A game consists of a series of turns until either the curse is lifted and the explorers win, or the explorers are consumed by the curse. A turn consists of 3 steps. Step 1, choose the active player. One player is chosen to be the active player. If players don't agree, then the active player will be the player to the left of the person who just took their turn. Step 2, check for others involved. If players are on the same tile, they can help each other. They have to agree to work together and help the active player if the active player agrees to take their help. And then step 3, you will take an action. You will resolve an action of your choice based on the white squares available. The possible white squares available could be the terrain card your figure is located, an exploration card attached to the terrain card where your figure is located, a permanent event card attached to the terrain card your figure is located, a temporary event card you have just revealed, a skill, bonus, or state card you have in your hand. The skill cards have a blue hand, the bonus cards have a green hand, and the state cards have a red hand. An item card in your inventory. And finally, it could be a quest item card that is under the satchel card. And then once the action has been entirely resolved, you would begin a new turn. It's good to keep in mind when you're doing these actions. The blue is the default cost, or how many cards you must draw from your action deck. The star number is the number of successes. The white and black are your consequences if you succeed or fail. Now let's look at the action resolution. Actions are resolved in a 7-step sequence. Step 1 is item. To use an item, you dial down your die on that item by 1, and it has to match the action icon that is taken. Step 2, cost. You will determine the action cost. This is where you will take the default cost, which is the blue number on the action. If multiple players are working together, you can subtract any number as chosen by the group. If other involved characters use any cards from their hands, you can subtract those numbers, and then you can subtract a number for each available resource, which is a craft action. You then draw that cost number of action cards. You may also draw additional action cards if you wish, unless there is a lock icon on that action. Step 3, result. You'll reveal all of the cards drawn. You will count the number of successes and add any from your hand. These would be the full stars created. So if you have a card that has the right side of a star and one that has the left side, you would have 1 success. If, when drawing and revealing these cards, you drew a card from the discard pile and the card was a curse card, then the game is over. Step 4, skill. The active player may choose 1 skill card revealed in Step 3 to add to their hand or to a player involved's hand, even if that causes the player to go over their hand limit. The hand limit size is based on the number of players and is located on your satchel card. Step 5, discard. You will discard the cards that you did not choose in Step 4, and then you will place the action cards in the discard pile, and the adventure or exploration cards will go to the past. Step 6, consequence. If you were successful, you will apply the white consequence, and if you failed, you would apply the black section of the action. Then finally, Step 7, the hand size. Any involved player who has more skill or bonus cards than their hand size limit has to discard any excess cards of their choice. Now let's look at the consequences of actions and events. You could be required to take a card summoned by the 3-digit number in a number box. When doing so, you would take the green card first, and when there are no more green cards of that number available, you would go to the gold card. If there are none of that particular number, you would shuffle and then place back those numbered cards from behind your past divider. When you see a blue or purple banner, you have the option of choosing the particular card in the banner or adding the number and taking the result card. When you reveal permanent events, you would place it on the board, attaching it to the particular terrain tile it is next to. When it is a temporary event card, you would resolve and discard it to the past. If there is a red box around the action, that is mandatory. When you reveal or collect an item card, you would add or combine it in your inventory, or you could discard it to the past. The number of items that you can carry at one time or combine is located on your satchel based on the number of players. If you find a quest item, it goes under your satchel. These are the items with the book symbol in the top left corner. When you collect a skill or bonus You would add it to your hand or another player's hand who was involved, or you may discard it to the past. And then finally, a stake card. These are the red hand cards. When you reveal a stake card, if there is a red X over a blue square, you would discard as many of your top action cards as stake cards in your hand. Then you would take the stake card into your hand. Another type of consequence can be to banish a card. The active player immediately removes that card from play and stores it behind the Banish Cards divider. All banished cards are returned at the end of the game, whether the players win or lose. When you see the icon that has a green square, an arrow, and then a gold square, you would banish the green card and immediately replace it with the gold card of the same number. Another consequence could be to return a card. You would then put it back into its original deck. Another consequence could be to lower the item durability, in which case you would dial the die down a particular number. You may also have a consequence of moving a figure or discarding a card. Now let's talk about the action deck and the discard pile. The action deck is the life force for the entire group. When the action deck runs out, you're going to shuffle the discard pile, place it face down, and if you draw a curse from this discard pile, you lose the game. When an effect enables players to put cards back into their action deck, these cards are either chosen at random or picked depending on what the card describes, and then shuffled back into the action deck. Now let's look at exploring the continent. When you have exploration cards attached to your terrain card, you can perform the Pathfind action by flipping the exploration card over. You would then resolve the exploration card. If it has a die in the top left corner, it is an item that you can add to your inventory. Once you resolve the exploration card, you would then place the adventure card whose number matches the one on your terrain tile for that location. Moving to another terrain card. If the active explorer is standing on a terrain card that has the travel action icon located on the terrain card, then they may perform that action along with any characters involved by moving to any reachable terrain tile uninterrupted by events. And then finally, spotting a hidden number. Some terrain cards and permanent event cards contain hidden numbers. When you find one, you would replace that particular card with the hidden number card. To make sure that that is a correct hidden number, you will notice on the back of that hidden number card the number of the card that had the hidden number on it with a thumbs up. Now let's look at crafting. The craft action or the wrench symbol action are available on certain skill cards, and it allows you to turn the skill card into an item card. This action requires you to resolve it like a normal action that we discussed earlier, and you're allowed to utilize the terrain tile you're located based on the resource in the bottom right corner of the terrain tile. You may also combine an item with an existing item. Items have to share a keyword, and then they would stack. The durability of the newly combined items is the current durability plus the original durability of the item to a max of 6. The amount of items you can combine is located on your satchel. You may relinquish an item at any time. When using an item, you simply lower the durability by 1. Giving someone or swapping an item with someone, you would discard 2 action cards and then swap the items or give the items, and you must be located on the same terrain tile. Now let's look at saving, resuming, or joining a game. You may save the game at any time as long as the character figures are on the same terrain card. To do this, you would perform 2 steps. Step 1, discard all the cards on the board into the past except for the terrain card all of the figures are standing on. Step 2, stack the remaining cards in order and put them behind the save divider in the game box. First, for each character, you would place their character cards, and then under that, all of their skill, bonus, or stake cards they have in their hand, and then behind each of those would be each item in the inventory, a save card to show durability. Then behind that, you would place the discard pile, then the action deck, then the satchel and journal, and then finally the terrain card that all the figures are standing. When resuming a game, you follow 8 steps. Step 1, return all the cards in the past to their place in the original decks. Step 2, put the saved terrain card back in play with all of the figures on top, and place the exploration cards based on that terrain card. Step 3, put the satchel and journal card back into play with the cards it contains underneath. Step 4, put the action card deck back into play. Step 5, put the discard pile back into play. Step 6, each player takes all of their skills, bonus, and state cards back into their hand. Step 7, each player puts the items from their inventory back into play. And then step 8, return all save cards to the game box. When leaving a game in progress, if the character is eliminated, then you would discard all the skills and bonuses, discard all the items in that particular player's hand, return all of the state cards they have in their hand, and banish all skill cards showing the character's face. If the character was not eliminated, the player must save their cards, and any of the character-specific cards in another player's inventory will not be returned until they are discarded. To join a game in progress, you would choose any character you would like to be, take the corresponding character card, and shuffle the 5 skill cards for that specific character into the action deck. Then you would immediately apply the hand and inventory size limits based on the satchel card, and then the new character's figure is placed on the same terrain card as the other figures. And then turns would continue until either your adventure is over and you lose the game, or the players collectively manage to lift all of the curses and you win the 7th continent.